So let's start with the first part, that is storage services. A similar feature that we have in Amazon Web Services, AWS, is S3. So just tell me, when I say storage services, what do you think what it must be? You have to focus on this term, storage. Must be something. Yeah, Sarika, you tried saying something.
The different ways or formats of storing.
Okay, somewhat near. And when you say storing, what exactly you want to store? Sarika?
The data or the information we obtain.
Yeah, that's correct. So can I say storage services is something to do with storing of the data, storing or storage of the data. This data may be the real application data. In some specialized cases, it must be the collection of raw files. In some cases, it must be simply representing your application also, right? So data can be app data, can be files, raw files, can be application itself. Okay. Now precisely why we are looking for storage services on cloud. Any idea?
Because we have huge amounts of data now, which will be difficult to store on files or physically.
Unpredictable amount of data. Can we say that, Veda? So basically, the first point that we can figure out from there is it's about scalable storage. And the second thing is cost. These are the two main requirements why we look for storage on cloud. I hope everyone understands this.
Yes, Saket.
Okay. Now, what kind of or what ways are there to store the data? As far as Azure is concerned, Azure allows you to store data in large chunks, where large chunks in binary format, I would say, for which we precisely use blob storage. What blob stands for? Binary large objects. Understood? Understood? It's not a new thing because most of the RDBMSs also had the support for the blob data type. Am I right? Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, PostgreSQL all support binary large objects or simply large objects. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
With binary large objects or blob storage in uh, Azure, it's not only the data that gets stored, data is stored as an object for which there can be extra metadata and properties. When I say extra metadata and properties, what do you understand?
Data describing some other data.
So exactly what kind of object we are storing, the details about that may be considered as extra metadata and properties, right? It may not be only the description of the object which is stored, it may be some additional information also, like in which context this object should be used. Some kind of hints might be there so that the integration with different intended applications can be made easy. Understood?
Yes.
Like if you are storing, or maybe we can take a case over here, like if you're creating a job portal like monster.com or naukri.com, which allows candidates to register. While registering, they need to provide their own details, basic details, skill sets, experience, etc. And in spite of giving all these details, they need to upload their resume as well. Yes or no?
Yes.
Resume can be considered as the object being stored in blob storage, and then the other details which you are filling, if they can be associated with that object itself and stored along with it, querying becomes much more easy. Yes or no? That's why probably the databases were introduced with blob data type. But there were restrictions. When it comes to RDBMS, per record you can have just one blob stored. So by theory we can say a table can have only one field of blob type. What if I want two or more blob types to be used? I don't have support in RDBMS. But still, considering this job portal requirement, we can say that I'm looking for a single blob object only. So the other properties can be the normal columns of this table, and the resume itself might be going in the blob type. Yes or no? But then all RDBMS systems also say it's not a good practice to use blobs everywhere, as they make your queries very slow. The indexes on blob cannot be created, and if the index is created on any other field, blob still interferes with it. So the time taken to retrieve the data is on higher side. So that is why what people used to do is, instead of using blob type, they used to store the file contents into the file system only on the server, and the path of the uploaded file used to be recorded in a regular nvarchar data type or varchar data type in the table. And while retrieving, It was just basic data type based table structure on which the queries were required. This path also can be indexed and searches can be made faster. But then there are two round trips required to the server for each record. One, the main query which retrieves record. From that record, we get the path. And then there is second round trip to the server, which using this path retrieves the file content. So that again becomes a challenge. So in such cases, here this blob storage of cloud probably can be helpful. Azure does support it with blob storage itself. I can upload the file content into a blob straight away, and then using metadata or properties or both, I can have the other parameters getting saved. So when I query, maybe I query on the basis of metadata or properties or both. In single shot, all matching records are retrieved, and then those records basically contain my blobs also already in memory. I just need to open a file stream to read it. There will be no separate round trip required to retrieve the file content. Will that make my interaction with the server faster overall or not? What do you think? Query itself is bringing in all the file contents, and that's a stream based access only. So practically it's not going to occupy all the memory. So what do you think? Will it be fast or not? It has to be. I don't need to go to the server to read the file content again. Okay. The next storage mode that Azure Storage provides is file storage, where I can store raw files. How will you differentiate between blob and file storage there? Any idea? Yes, anyone? Think what could be different? File storage, raw files, network file system is what I've mentioned. Look at the file storage here in File Explorer. Let me open. If I go to C drive, I have some folders. I go inside some directory, some more folders. I go inside another directory. There are some more folders and some files also. This is a typical example of a file storage. What do you
File
understand by
storage. This is structured.
okay? Hierarchical structure. Do you mean that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What
Whereas blob
else?
is unstructured data.
Yeah. So for your information, Microsoft Azure Storage Services, typically if I talk about blob storage, represents a structured storage only. and that
Okay.
looks pretty much similar to file system only,
Okay.
hierarchical. In both cases, though, you can see the data itself may not be structured, right? Just the organization of the objects might be structured. Right, Sarika? Agree on that?
Yes, Sakit.
What is the content in the object? So suppose in file storage also, what is the content of the file that may or may not be structured? I don't know. It depends entirely on what is the file type, correct?
Yes.
So actual data we considered as unstructured or non-structured only. But yeah, the way how the objects are put, that is organized or structured. And that's the case with blob and file both. What other differences you see? Again, I go to File Explorer. If I talk about this File Explorer, can you tell me whether this file, any file for that matter, holds the metadata also into it and some additional properties? The data which is something specifically talking about the content of this file. Some information we do have. If I go to file properties, it tells me what is the name of the file, what is the type of the file, which application it does open with by default, what is the location, what is the size, when it was created, modified, accessed, some special attributes like whether the file content is read only or writable, whether it is hidden or not. Maybe some additional things might be like archive attribute, compression, and encryption. Beside this, do we have any other information? Only thing which I see here as a typical metadata content about the type of data which I have or the data which I have in it is type of file. Beside that, do I have any description which says what data is there? It's AVI, so it must be either some audio or video file. But what topic that audio or video is about? How do I find it? Do we have any support for that for file systems? What do you think? Or maybe if programmatically we can do something there. Store this additional information. What do you think? Yes.
I think programmatically it can be done, retrieving some metadata about the file.
Metadata about the contents of the file. Can we
The,
rewrite that programmatically?
yes,
Are you sure?
yes. For example, if we have audio, we can find out silence percentage in that. So that can be done programmatically.
Okay, but what that audio is about, what topic that audio is about, can I find that?
Not that specifically, but some metadata we can find out.
Yeah. So let me refine my question. Can I find out the detailed metadata? The metadata, Shaurya, you are talking about probably seems to be more of system specific metadata, right?
Right.
Application specific metadata, how will I find? Or how will I write to it? File system doesn't support that, correct?
Correct.
If the system itself doesn't support that, whether directly or programmatically, you cannot read or write such things, right?
Right.
That's where blob storage wins. If you are just looking to hold some files, file storage is good. But if you are looking for holding the file content as an object about which you want to attach lots of application specific data as metadata or extended properties, in that case you go for blobs. Understood? Another difference is a file cannot have a size more than supported by your system. 32-bit systems usually support a file not more than 4 GB. 64-bit systems goes up to 16 GB file size. So you have a limitation on the size of file when you use file storage. That's not the case with blob storage, because the data in blob storage can be stored in distributed fashion easily without any additional algorithm required. Because blob storage has been created that way only. It has built-in algorithm to distribute the data across different devices, the storage devices. Understood? Which also allows me to retrieve data from a specific fragment instead of retrieving the complete object and then finding what I am looking for. I can look for the data what I am looking for into a specific location and I read only that chunk instead of reading the whole object. That ultimately makes the retrieval further faster. Understood? Understood? What I mean is the same object can be stored on 3, 4, 5, I mean n number of physical devices, which is not the case for file storage by design. One file gets stored on one physical storage only. Is it understood?
Yes, okay.
The next storage type which storage services on Azure offer is table storage. This is also a NoSQL storage, which means either unstructured or semi-structured data. In this case, it is semi-structured. Data is stored in row column format. Where usually if you look at the tables in RDBMS, you have equal number of columns for each row. If you have defined 5 columns, each row will have 5 columns into it. That way, can we say the RDBMS tables schema is decided by the columns, not by the rows? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, okay.
With table storage over here, the schema is not decided by columns. It's decided by each of the row. So basically the row is designed in such a way that each row tells what it is storing. Understood? Like I can say there is a table named as persons, or maybe not person, I'll name it as people. This table, can it store person objects? Yes. Couple of person objects maybe. Employee also is a category of people only. So it can store employee object as well, student object as well. So entire family of objects can be stored in one single table here. Now person may have the structure like this. Person has got ID, name, age. Employee may have ID, name, age, department number, and salary. Maybe a few more fields. Student may have ID, name, age, roll number, course ID in which he is enrolled, and maybe a few more details. Now I'm saying a single table can hold all these objects. Now it is the row which knows what type of object is stored. Here it is person object. So this row will have 3 fields. Second row will also have 3 fields. Third row is employee object. It will have 5 fields. Fourth row is student object. It will also have 5 fields, but here if you see, instead of department number I have roll number, instead of salary I have course ID. So every row is defining its own schema. Number of columns may or may not be same across different rows. So your table typically will look like this. 2 columns in first row, maybe 3 columns in second row, again 2 columns, maybe the next row has got 5 columns. If you look at this structure, can we say it is actually structured? At the table level, can we say it is structured? Yes or no?
No, Saket.
But at the row level, can we say each row is structured?
Yes, Saket.
And that's why we call it as semi-structured storage in NoSQL category. Right? Now see, in an RDBMS scenario, we'll not be able to have a table like this which can store all these objects. If we try to do that, we need to have the table with some fields, which actually is the union of all the fields of all the objects. And for most of the records, there will be a lot of null values for multiple columns. Yes or no? That increases the size of the table ultimately. And too many null values also degrade the performance. That's where this kind of storage can help, where each row stores what actually is required and not the other things. So simply here I don't have null values for additional columns. I don't have those columns at all. For this row I needed 2 columns, I have 2 columns only. There is no third column. Space wise also I save it on this, and while retrieving there are no null values here, so my query also will be much more faster. Understood? So instead of creating separate persons table, employees table, students table, I can have one single table called as people, which can store all these similar type of objects. Instead of saying same, we say similar type of objects. Understood? And then comes the fourth type, that is queue storage. This provides you a basic in-memory data structure which comes up with the queue behavior, which is first in, first out. It allows you to create message-oriented applications at the basic level. Though this queue storage doesn't give you highly reliable solution. For that, at enterprise level, you would require service bus queues, a separate service offered by Microsoft Azure. This is for basic messaging based applications, where if couple of messages get lost also, it's okay. If you are looking for each and every message to be processed at any cost, you need higher reliability, you have to go for something beyond storage. Understood? Yes? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so time for the implementation here. As I said, in this session, we are going to talk about two of the storage types, blob and files. So first we will see the file storage. For any of the storage service that you need to create, first thing you would need is a storage account, which is actually a billing unit for finding out how much data you are storing and how many read write operations, means input output operations or IOPS you are doing, based on which the charges will be calculated. Understood? So the first task will be to create a resource of type storage account. So here we go and say create resource. Select the category storage and see if storage account is mentioned already here. I can see that by default, maybe using the search box, I look for it. Search for storage account. It appears in the list. Select it. This is what we have. Click create. First few things are usual. Subscription, you have to select your Sandbox subscription, your own resource group. And then we need to give some name here to the storage account, which has to be once again globally unique, because the name that you give here will be used as a subdomain name in a predefined domain. Okay. Minimum 3 to maximum 24 characters you can use and can contain only lower case letters along with numbers. Uppercase letters not supported. Let me name this as OI demo storage 1. This has to be globally unique, so you should use a different name over here. Region, I'll say, is West US. Two, or whatever you have been using since last 2 days. Next is performance. We have two options, standard and premium. It's all about providing the data as quickly as it is possible. Premium says use it for the scenarios where the data retrieval is more than data writes, so that you can get to data with as low latency as possible. Standard is recommended for the scenarios where the write operations are more than read. There is a difference in cost also. Standard is cheaper than premium for obvious reasons. Now, can you tell me how this difference must be coming in? What they must have done behind scenes? Simply, we are talking about storage services. When I say storage services, definitely my data must be getting stored on some hardware storage. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, okay.
Now, simply with respect to your own machines which you are working with, if I put a standard hard drive into it, and there is another system with same configuration, but instead of hard drive, I have a SSD over there with same set of software being installed on both machines. Rest of the hardware is absolutely same. What do you think? Which machine is going to perform better? The one with HDD or the one with SSD when it comes to data retrieval?
SSD.
And that is the difference here. Standard means the hard drive, normal one is used for storing data, premium uses SSD. So for now, I'll go with standard. Then comes redundancy. No matter what happens to my data center, my data should not get lost. For that, we need to set up the redundancy options. There are few options. Mainly there are three options: locally redundant, zone redundant, and geo redundant. What's the difference? Locally redundant means on the same server, same hardware server, you will have 3 copies minimum maintained separately. If one of the copy gets corrupted, the other copy is available. One thing, it makes sure that each copy is maintained on a separate drive instead of maintaining it on the same drive. because if drive is corrupted, it will be corrupted as a whole. And then all three copies will be of no use. If I have three different drives, if drive gets corrupted, maybe one of them will get corrupt at any moment. It's little rare that all the three drives are corrupted together. So that I will still have two working copies. One keeps on acting as master copy. All read write happens from there only. The other two are just the backup replicas. If the master copy fails, then only one of the two replicas become master. And the third replica once again is created. Understood? Understood?
Yes, Saket.
Now see, these days if we look for the enterprise grade computers, maybe desktop, maybe laptop, they come with at least two storage devices, aren't they? And by default, they come up with the replication enabled. So whatever you are storing on the main drive gets replicated on the other drive as well. Specialized operating system extensions are created for that. Now, if your main hard drive fails for any reason, at least your data is safe. There is another copy being maintained on the secondary drive from where you can retrieve it anytime. Yes or no? That's what the redundancy is. Next level is zone redundant storage, ZRS. What is it? When I say there is a data center is a rack of servers. Multiple hardware servers are installed into it to make it one data center. But all these servers in one data center share the same power source, the same network, all the same external factors. Civil space is same. What if there is a power outage? What if there is a flood, earthquake, any natural calamity? Don't you think the reliability of my data would be at stake if I just go with local redundant storage and my data is very critical? I need it at any cost. What do you think? I don't want any downtime either. What do you think? Say there is banking system. I don't want even 20 minutes of downtime there. You might say that, okay, the backup can be restored on some other data center and we can make it available, but that will take some time. I don't have that time itself. Up to few seconds, it's okay. If possible, even these few seconds delay can be avoided as well. If I have a system like that, I would be much more happier because I'm running an application which is business critical. What do you think? What should be the strategy in that case? So what Azure uses is based on the load on a specific data center, minimum of 3 data center replicas are created at a distance of minimum 50 kilometers to a maximum of 200 kilometers from the main data center. So there will be one main data center and 2 replicas, which will be usually inactive in terms of interacting with the end user. But behind scenes, they will be always active because they are always going to receive the updates from the main data center. If the main data center faces any issue like power outage, network failure, natural calamity, fire, whatever it is, because of which the main data center becomes unavailable, without spending any time on switching or something, one of the 2 other data centers basically will become the primary data center and will keep on serving the data. And because they are having real-time replication with distance not being much, it's quite possible to have real-time replication. The user is not going to be affected at all. In practice, the user will never come to know that my data center got failed. Do you think this is good strategy? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
This is what zone redundant storage is. I said minimum of 3 setups are there, but it can be more also depending on the load on the data center and depending on the physical or geographical location. Understood? Then there is geo-redundant storage, GRS. What is it? This failover setup is not limited to the zone, but across 2 or more regions. Suppose your data center is under some natural disaster threat or whatever, maybe some attack happening, maybe the country gets into a war. All the 3 locations, nearby locations are under threat. All the 3 options or whatever other options we have are down. What we will do? My data cannot wait or my clients cannot wait for getting the data till the end of the war or something. What do? I go for setting up a secondary region. It may be far away from my primary. There might be some network latency, but at least my application, my data will always be available. Don't you think that makes sense? Country is in war. Is that a mistake of that business or that organization or employees of that organization or their customers? No. So why should they suffer? They should always have their data safe. Yes or no? So maybe if I am using one of the Indian data center as primary region, I probably set up another secondary region either in Europe or America so that the distance is so high that even if our country gets into war or any similar threat, my data is still safe and accessible across globe. Does that make sense or not?
Yes, it does.
That is geo-redundant storage. And then there is a option named as geo-zone redundant storage. What is it? It combines ZRS and GRS both together. Multiple zones get the replication. Along with that, multiple regions, I mean 2 regions at least, and there, I mean all the zones get the replication of my data. Understood? For now, I'll go with locally redundant. Pricing wise, which will be cheapest and which will be costliest? Locally redundant will be the cheapest. And geo zone redundant storage will be the costliest, right? So local, cheapest, next to that is zone, next to that is geo redundant, and next to that is geo zone redundant. For now, I'll go for locally redundant. Then say next. These are all the options for security. Whether you require secure transfer for REST API operations, means secure channel should be used. Like if the communication is happening on HTTP, I may want HTTPS SSL. Check this box. Whether I want infrastructure based encryption. So whatever the data is stored, if I want that data to be stored in encrypted format, I can check this. Whether the storage account key is accessible or not, so that the data can be retrieved. Usually we will need this. And next is Azure Active Directory authorization in the Azure portal. So this is additional feature which has been brought in recently. With Azure Active Directory credentials, you can get direct access to the blob content or storage content. Then minimum version of transport layer security. So if client is requesting with an older version of TLS, it will be rejected. That request will be rejected. Now, if you are looking to use this for big data integration, there is a feature called as data lake storage, which can be configured on storage account. If you are looking for that, then you have to check this box. Enable hierarchical namespace. But now we won't be using it. Then we have a feature of enabling network file share for blob storage. This will allow the blob storage to be used as file storage if required. I don't want it right now because ultimately I'm going to use file storage also. Next we have is access tier, hot and cool. This is where if read operations are more than write operations, I will probably go for hot. If write operations are more, or maybe if I'm using the storage only for backup services, I'll go for cool storage. The difference is hot storage uses caching, cool storage doesn't use caching. Understood? I'll go with hot for now. Files are already supported. This option just allows me to have a file which can be having a size up to 100 terabytes. Otherwise, the default limitations will be there, like 4 GB on 32-bit, 16 GB on 64-bit, and so on. And then for tables and queues, for data encryption, whether the system provided keys should be used or we want the user to use customized keys created by the customer only, we can select this. So for now, we'll not be using it. Just say next. And we are in networking tab where it is asking for connectivity method. This is all about the firewall settings. Again, whitelisting, blacklisting the users. Public endpoint means no restrictions. Everyone across the world can connect to the storage account. Public endpoint selected networks means I would be required to select the specific virtual networks which will be allowed to access the storage account. Other than those networks, no one will be allowed. Private endpoint means I will be allowing a private connection to this resource where shared between the client and the server. For now, I'm going to use public endpoint. And then the routing, Microsoft network routing, internet routing, how the routing is going to take place. I'll go with Microsoft network routing for now. Next is about data protection. We selected some redundancy options. So this is something about that. Whether we want to enable point-in-time restore for containers. If blob container is deleted, do we want a restore service for it or not? Or do we want a restore service to be able to go back to a previous version or not? Maybe it's good to have thing. Version management can be enabled with this. Then soft delete for blobs, containers, file shares. What is soft delete? If I delete some file from here, delete. What happens with that file? Is it permanently deleted or is it going inside recycle bin?
Recycle bin.
I can restore it back from here, right? Right, Veda?
Yes.
That makes it a safer option. Sometimes accidental deletes can be undone with the help of this behavior, right?
Yes.
That's the feature being discussed here. Soft delete means if it is enabled, it gives you the recycle bin behavior wherein you can restore the deleted items any point in time. If this is not enabled, delete means delete. It will be permanently deleted. And then here we have in number of days. For how many number of days that deleted data is supposed to be retained. Default is 7 days. Within 7 days, if you don't restore, it will be permanently deleted. If you want, you can increase this. If you want, you can decrease this number as well. Understood? Understood? Go to the next tag, that is tags. I need not tell you what exactly is this. Some extra identifiers that we assign to the resource so that if similar named resources are there, selecting the required resource becomes easy with tags. Next, once the validation is successful, create button will be enabled and we click that.
Saket, actually my validation failed.
Just check if it must be failing on the name.
Mine also failed, and the error is policy storage public account disable, public access disable.
Okay. Okay, Shaurya, can you share your screen? If it is policy, that means again it is your organizational policy which is blocking certain things. They are saying that public access cannot be enabled. Okay, what does it mean? Your company doesn't want you to host any storage account which has got public access. It must be either private endpoint or it must be something specific to a virtual network. Understood? So you have to go back to the networking tab and select either private endpoint or virtual network. Go to the networking tab and select private endpoint and then say review plus create. Yeah, we need to add the private endpoint. Correct. Okay, so subscription resource group it has automatically taken. Location it has taken already. Give the name to this endpoint.
Should I click OK now?
Just wait. After the name, it is asking for storage sub-resource. Okay, and then networking. Okay, so this way you will be able to use this blob only within that particular virtual network only as a private endpoint. Okay,
But Saket, we
click OK.
deleted that VNet yesterday.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering. What can be done? Because see, the private endpoint would require you to do that. Let's see if the storage gets created this way.
Saket, it is giving this error code.
Okay, can you read out that message? Is allowed by policy. Storage accounts public access disable. Okay, but we did change it to private, right? Can you click on that link? Deny storage account public access disable. No, it doesn't show anything. It's blocked again. Okay, what can be done then? Give me a moment, searching for alternate that we can use here.
Saket, when I disabled the enable blob access, then the validation is passed.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, one second.
Yeah, I can see.
This one, I disabled this.
Okay. Okay, guys, then just go to the step advanced and disable this. Anyways, we will be accessing the blob with client application that will use a public key to communicate with the blob. The shared access signature we will be using. So you can do that. Just check if you are able to get the storage account deployed after that.
So Saket, in networking, we have to use private endpoint now.
Go with the public endpoint in that case. The policy doesn't seem to be on endpoint. It probably seems to be on the public accessibility on blob.
Okay.
So you can delete that endpoint added, and then you can select public endpoint, and then in advanced tab, uncheck the box public access for blob. Done. Once it is
Yes.
completed, just click on go to resource. You should be on this page. So is everyone able to get this?
Yes, again.
So our storage account is ready. In this storage account, you can have your blobs, you can have your tables, queues, file services, all configured. Here is file service option. Soft delete is enabled for 7 days. Share capacity is 5 terabytes. I'm looking for this to be increased up to 500 terabytes or something. I need to enable the large file share. We discussed that, right? Click on file service option. It says you don't have any file shares yet. Click plus file share to get started. Click on this button plus file share. Name it with all small letters. Let's say demo file share is the name, and then the tier. Transaction optimized means it will automatically switch between hot and cool as per the usage. I can go for hot and cool if I precisely know that whether read operations are more or write. Once in a while write operations and once in a while read operations are there. So I'll go with transaction optimized. Maximum number of input output per second supported is 1000. And then how much data can come in, can go out is listed here per second. Let's click on create. So you have your file share creator. Click on that file share, and here you can upload your contents directly. So maybe first thing we will do is upload, select a file. Let's say I upload this zip file and say upload. 382 megabytes getting uploaded. It all depends on my internet upload speed, how long it is going to take. Meanwhile, I can also say add directory to create the folder. If I want to change the access tier, I can change from here. I can also limit the quota. Okay, and then here we do have connect option. If you remember yesterday, I mapped a network drive to my virtual machine for the file share which I already had. So here is the PowerShell script already given. If on Linux you are doing, this is the bash script. On Mac OS, this is the script which you will be using so that a network drive can be mapped. Drive letter which you want to map could be selected here, whether it is Z drive, E drive, F drive, whatever. I want it to be Z drive. And then the authentication method. I want it to be authenticated using the account key only. Let's copy this script. We have a copy to clipboard button. Better to click that itself. Copies the entire script properly. And then I go to File Explorer. This PC, just check I don't have any Z drive already here. I minimize this, go to PowerShell in administrator mode, or maybe we can try directly also. And here I paste that script. It tries attempting to connect. At the end, here you have to press enter to complete the command. It says the credential has been added successfully. There is already some usage of 0.37 GB, maybe because of that zip file. Drive letter is Z. The free amount of the storage available is this in GB, and the actual path is here. Isn't it looking like a typical UNC path? And now if I go to File Explorer, here you will see there is a Z drive mapped. If I double click on this, my file is visible. I can directly copy paste the files also. Right, so it is just like a network file share which I have created. To remove this, I can just right click and say disconnect. It's gone.
Saket, I'm getting an error in PowerShell.
What is the error?
Just a second.
Is it access related?
This one.
Okay.
I think you can switch off the VPN.
Yeah, after switching off the VPN, just try this.
Okay.
Right, so as we discussed yesterday also, if you are working from behind VPN, there could be some network policy which blocks the access to the external shares and all. So without VPN, is it working for others? It must be actually. It's a simple file share, right? Network file share. Just like if I'm connecting to some remote machine only for the file services. Like we do have some common shares on our company servers as well. If we want to get something from there, we can just connect to that server, map a network drive, and just use whatever files you want. Yes or no? Yes or no? So is it clear? The file share thing. Simple stuff. To read and write from this programmatically, you just need to use the file IO features of your development framework. Like in .NET, we have system.io namespace, which comes up with lots of classes that allow us to do file IO. First map the network drive, and then using file IO, based on the path of that network drive, you can just read and write files. Got my point or not? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now I'm back on the storage overview page. Here I have something called as access keys.
Saket, are you sharing your screen?
Oh, it got lost actually. So is it visible now?
Yes, Saket, it is visible now.
Yeah. So storage account overview page. Then in the middle section, we have access keys. You have key and connection string, key to and connection string associated with that. These are something like passwords to get connected to your storage account. When to use key, when to use connection string. If I'm using an HTTP call using a RESTful service, web API call, then I'll be using key, because where the request goes is already there in the request itself. We need to give the endpoint path, right? The URL of the web API. So the only pending thing would be your password, which you gave as key. But if you are using some client-side SDK, whichever platform you are using, if SDK is there, the connection string is what you will use. Say show key, copy one of the connection string and open the Windows Notepad and keep that connection string there. It includes your endpoint, I mean the API endpoint, along with the key also. Account key, if you see, it's that. So it knows where to connect, where to send the request, and what password to be used with this connection string. Now just one question I have here. Why do I have two keys and two connection strings? Key 1, key 2. What is that? What is that and why is that? These are like two endpoints. If one endpoint fails, there is secondary endpoint failover. You can consider that there are two network cards, both having two different IP addresses. So if connection to one IP address is not established, I can write my application in such a way that it automatically tries connecting to the second endpoint or second IP address. Understood? Now go to Visual Studio, take a new project. Programmatically, you'll be uploading a blob and programmatically will be downloading also. So here I select console and select console app.NET framework. Click next. Give the project name as AZ_blob. Location. Here I'll create another folder. And will create my solution there. Yes. Ready with the console application, everyone? Yes or no?
Yes,
Just a minute,
Saket.
Saket. Just a minute.
Now we need to add the client-side SDK to this project to be able to communicate with the storage services. So just right click on references here in Solution Explorer, select Manage NuGet Packages, go to Browse and search for Windows Azure dot. The first option which comes with the same name, Windows Azure dot storage, is what we'll be looking for. In fact, there is a newer replacement also, Azure dot storage dot blobs. Once you are done with this demo, maybe you can explore this package. There might be some differences in terms of using the APIs. But yeah, it will not be a drastic change as such. You can go through the documentation. Okay, so for now we'll keep on going with this deprecated package, Windows Azure dot storage. Click install. Okay, I accept. And it's done. So I close this tab and back over here into our main program, where I start with importing system.io for using the streaming services. Then I say Microsoft.Windows Azure dot storage, followed by Microsoft.Windows Azure dot storage dot blob. And then here I define a string variable CS for connection string, where I need to have that connection string pasted. So I go to Notepad, copy this connection string, paste it here. Alternatively, this can be taken from the config file also. Then I create an instance of cloud storage account class. First, I need to get connected to the storage account. For that, the cloud storage account class comes up with a static method that acts as a factory to construct the cloud storage account object. That method is parse, to which I need to pass the connection string. Yes. I want to interact with blobs. So here I create the proxy class instance for that. Cloud blob client. Blob client equals new cloud blob client. In fact, I get it created with the help of storage account object, which gives me a factory method create cloud blob client, so that I don't need to specify the storage account separately, as I'm asking storage account only to give me the blob client. Next, the blobs are not stored directly. They're put into an higher level object called as container, like a folder. So the top level thing has to be a container. You can have blobs and you can have subfolders created. So I say cloud blob container equals. I can say new container, but then I need to tell all the details like blob client, storage account, etc. So instead of that, I say use blob client object to call the method get container reference. The container name. Let's say I'm looking for container with the name OI container, not yet created. Or maybe I don't know whether it is created or not. So as a good practice, the next statement is container dot create if not exists. It will automatically check whether get container reference returned a reference actually or not. If yes, that means the container is created. If not, that means it's not created. This method will create and get the reference in the container itself. Then the actual blob I want to create. There are three types of blob supported by Azure: block blob, append blob, and page blob. The difference is in their composition. Block blob allows you to control the structure of each chunk of the data. I mean, the size can be decided by the user. Because your data is stored in distributed manner, it is broken down into multiple chunks, or you can say packets or blocks. These blocks sizes can be decided if you're going with block blob. If you're going with page blob, it is fixed to 512 KB. Each block will be of 512 KB fixed. If more data is there, it will create one more page blob. Still, if more data is there, another page blob block will be created. For sequential access, probably the block blob is good. For random access, page blob is good. Because if blocks are of same size and predefined size, indexing them becomes easy. So for this example, I'm going to use page blob. I'll use container object to get the blob created. So I say get page blob reference, blob by the name blob is what I'm looking for. If exists, it will be there in page blob. If not, it needs to be created. So here I say, because I'm looking to create one, I'll not say check if exist or something. I say go ahead and create one. So I use the using block for deterministic garbage collection. I say where fs equals to file.read. Here I need to pass the path of some file. I put @ as a prefix to the string, and let's select some file. Any file you can choose. Let's say the file is this. I copy the complete path from here. Paste it here. The name of the file itself. With extension. I want this file to be uploaded. I want to put some metadata also. So I say page blob dot metadata dot add. It's a dictionary. So I can put the key value, where key and value both are supposed to be of type string. I say this content, and the value is attendance sheet for the training. Likewise, you can add as much metadata as you want. To actually get this set up with the blob, you have to say page blob dot metadata. This will actually write the metadata. And then you say page blob dot upload from stream. I have my content already opened in the file stream fs object. So I pass fs over here. And there I say control.writeLine upload completed. And an empty line. Let's start this program to see if it is able to upload or not. Okay. Let me check on portal if it did create the container at least. So I go to overview, containers. I can see why container is already created. Blob is not. It should have been created. Let me start again. Okay, let me comment this set metadata for now. That is failing. Yeah, as I said, it must be actually in the multiple of 512 bytes. So I have to divide my data itself in that fashion. Maybe to make this work, I just say go for cloud blob I get this renamed to blob, and with this handle I get it renamed. Everywhere it is actually being used. So it's changed, and this I replace with blob. If I'm not giving the size, it will take the size of the file being uploaded and will automatically set the blocks accordingly. So ideally you should set the size. Let's see. I believe this also should work there. Okay, let's comment this. It usually works. I don't know if something is changed. Let's see if it is uploaded here. Yeah, I do see it's uploaded. The metadata also is set. So yeah, there is a change. Set metadata method need not be called. Okay, I have the blob here. I can actually download it directly from here as well if public access is there. If public access is not there, I cannot download it directly without the password. Now, usually in an application scenario, we'll never need it to be downloaded directly. Most likely we are going to need it with the program. So here goes the read operation. The write operation I have commented. Read operation. This using block. Paste it here, uncomment this pasted thing. Instead of open read, now I say open write. That means open a file for write. By a different name I want to get it created. Attendance sheet, blah 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 dash copy. So the blob content it will download and write to this file. Here I say block blob dot download to stream. Fs. And I say console dot write line. Blob blob. I want to read the metadata. So I say dot metadata and pass the key, whichever I want to read. So in our case, it was content. Message, download, and read. Let's start and see if the metadata it is able to retrieve or not. It does. And without error, this got completed means on my desktop, I must be having a new file created here. There it is. Attendance sheet, copy. And the contents, if you compare, will be exactly the same. Right? So it's not just a file being uploaded and downloaded. It's more than that, where you are able to associate the extra metadata also pretty easily. Understood? Understood? Yes or no?
Yes, Saket.
So I'm sharing two files which have more detailed version of this particular demo, where you will find the use of block blob, page blob, append blob, everything. Append blob is like block blob only, where the blob is opened in append mode. So every time you write, it will not overwrite the existing content. It will just keep on appending it to the existing content. So just check that OneDrive link that I shared with you. In that Providence 2 folder itself, directly you must have the two PDF files. Please check. Get started with Azure File Storage on Windows and get started with Azure Blob Storage using .NET is the title. Are you able to look it?
Yes, okay.
Okay, so you can try that out in detail. So time for break. It's 11:30. We'll resume the session at 11:50, where we'll be talking about the Cosmos DB service, which represents a NoSQL database offering by Microsoft Azure. Okay, so see you at 11:50. Welcome back, everyone. Shall we proceed?
Yes, Saket.
Okay. So let's move on to the next thing, where we are now going to talk about NoSQL databases using Cosmos DB. So first understand what is NoSQL database. I'm sure you must have worked with one or the other type of NoSQL database. So just tell me quickly, what do you understand by the term NoSQL? Anybody?
SQL, I guess, is a relational database. So no SQL where it is not a relational database.
Okay, so practically relation is not the key thing here. NoSQL stands for not only SQL. SQL comes with lots of restrictions, or RDBMS precisely comes with lots of restrictions, like all tables must have a schema that is predefined. Equal number of columns must be there in all the rows. There has to be some data types always. The hierarchical data cannot be stored. Anytime when we need the hierarchical information, relation is the only way. There is no other way to store it. Right? So these restrictions sometimes may not be suitable for some specific requirements. Like if we talk about the applications representing social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, the kind of data which comes in and the amount of data which comes in is not something that can be predicted. Anytime someone puts image, maybe one image, maybe 10 images. Anytime someone can put text or mix of text and images. With that also, there is no restriction on size. It can be audio, it can be video content also. So the amount of content can be anything. The type of content can be anything. The overall composition can be anything. And you can see many of the business applications are also going the social way these days. Do you agree on that? UPI payments are available on WhatsApp. Just like you are chatting, you can send money or receive money. Introduced first time with GPay and PhonePe, where the chatting and sending money both was integrated into the same platform. Some features are expected where the drag and drop stuff will also be there, right? Some animated stuff that makes your application even more interesting, right? So we anymore don't have any restriction on type of data and amount of data. So how do we pre-structure it? If we don't know what type of data will come, in what amount it will come, how do we pre-create the structure? And sometimes the structure becomes so complex that we need hierarchical data to be supported also, which RDBMS doesn't support without relations. Multi-table queries also take some time at various situations. We have seen that optimization of the queries become a challenge at times. So maybe the time came for thinking beyond RDBMS. If we can compose all this data in the form of complex business objects at the application level, can't we have some way using which this objects as it is can be dumped into the permanent storage. That's where the NoSQL originated. Saving the complete objects or object graphs into the permanent storage medium. Okay. So now if you talk about Blob, if you talk about file storage, if you talk about tables, queues, etc., they are all also NoSQL database stuff only. But they are not complete database systems. When I say database systems, like we discussed about DBMS, what we expect? We expect some enterprise grade features like backup recovery services, replication services. We probably would like to have some high availability services, query techniques, right? Some queries, capability of writing queries, maybe in some cases, the database objects like procedures, functions, etc. These storage services don't give us that. We need a proper database management system for NoSQL. NoSQL DBMS, I would say. So any NoSQL DBMS you have worked with or you have heard of?
MongoDB.
MongoDB is there. DynamoDB is there. Then any other names that you probably know?
MySQL.
MySQL is RDBMS.
SQLite.
SQLite is also RDBMS. Gremlin. PostgreSQL has been modified to support both RDBMS and NoSQL storage. So I'll put that also here. We do have something called as Cassandra. Elasticsearch. HBase. Right? These all are different offerings of NoSQL databases from various providers. These usually are divided in 4 categories. Document-based databases, key-value databases, column-based databases, sometimes also referred to as wide column, means within which lot of data can be stored. And then we have graph databases also. MongoDB falls in this category. Cassandra is within graph. database category. DynamoDB is key value pair. Gremlin again is graph. PostgreSQL is not designed for a specific format, it is configurable. So I'll say configurable, though by default it is more near to the column based databases. So I'll also put this in category 3. Then comes Elasticsearch. Which is also document based database. HBase is column based database. And these are all proper the database management systems based on NoSQL that provide you all the features of a typical DBMS, not in relational way but NoSQL way. Okay. Now here we identified some categories. What is the difference between them? What is document based? Your objects are stored as documents, maybe XML, JSON, binary JSON, binary XML. If you look at JSON format or XML format, they look more like a document structure, isn't it? Key value structure is always going to be based on some unique values mapped to some objects. Typical key value pair. Column based database example is like table storage we discussed, where you will have some predefined columns and then each row then further can add the columns as per its requirement. Usually we create multiple tables with this white column based databases for different object families. Object of one type is put into same table. So people table can hold person, employee, student, and so on, instead of creating separate tables for all types. We create table for master type. Then graph means the graph data structure based storage. More hierarchical here. There is a root, then there are branches. The branches may have further more branches, more like a file system. Understood? What is the biggest challenge here now? Based on my need, I should be able to pick up which format will be right for me. And based on that, I can pick up any product. Microsoft also came up with their own implementation that is named as DocumentDB, which is again a document-based database implementation. Okay, so I can choose any of them. If I'm decided on that I'm going for document-based implementation, I can go for MongoDB, DocumentDB, Elasticsearch, anything. Yes or no? Now, if different projects require different NoSQL databases, don't you think I would need to pay the license cost for all different NoSQL database products? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, Saket.
Secondly, if it is on-premises implementation, scalability would become a factor. Correct? That's where Microsoft decided that they'll come up with a single unified database offering, and that's where they release something called as Cosmos DB. Cosmos term originates from Cosmo, which means multiple origins or multiple types. This Cosmos DB supports most of the NoSQL database types. Some of the products supported here include their own product, that is DocumentDB, which has been now renamed as SQL API, because it uses a query syntax similar to SQL. It does support MongoDB. It does support Gremlin. It does support Cassandra. It does support Table API also, which is an integration with the table storage we discussed in the previous session. Table storage as such is just storage, but when it is used along with Cosmos DB, we get all database management system features, where the storage happens in table storage only. Understood? And there will be many such products that will be onboarded in coming days. Okay. What is the advantage of this? I just need Cosmos DB account to be created. I don't need to buy separate licenses. Moreover, Cosmos DB is a cloud offering. So scalability and cost comes under control. Third thing is being cloud based allows me global access, reliability, security, everything. All cloud features will be applicable to this. I just need to change my client SDK, or if existing application I'm looking to migrate from on-premises to cloud, I just need to have Cosmos DB service, which is a platform as a service offering, and change my connection parameters, and that's it. I need not rewrite my client application again just because I'm migrating on-premises MongoDB to Cosmos DB. It's not a product to product migration. it's a on-premises to cloud migration. Even if I'm saying it's a different product I'm using, this product has got MongoDB service embedded into it. So it can accept the MongoDB database directly. I can host MongoDB database on Cosmos DB directly. And it keeps on behaving like MongoDB database server only, without having MongoDB deployed separately. Does that make sense or not? Yes or no?
Yes, okay.
So same is the case with the other types also. Okay. So time for implementation. For working with this, first of all, we need to create Cosmos DB account, just like storage account, which will be the billing unit for us. Which will take care of how much data is there and how many IOPS are happening, based on which it will calculate the charges. Understand? Let's go to the portal. Let's close this. Maybe we can go to the resource group and get the storage account deleted. As in near future, we don't need it. If required, we'll get it created again. So once this deletion starts happening, I just go back to my home screen, create resource. What I'm looking for is Cosmos DB. Directly in Get Started category itself, Azure Cosmos DB is there. I can find that in databases also. Select Azure Cosmos DB and see here. The APIs supported are visible. SQL API has been further renamed now to Core SQL. This is essentially document DB database only. Then we have Azure Cosmos DB API for MongoDB. To host MongoDB, we use this. To host Cassandra databases, we use this. To host Gremlin database, we use this. To host Azure Table Storage, we use this. Understood? I select Core SQL. Say for example, because we are going through the Microsoft stack of technologies. That's why I go with this. If you have worked with MongoDB, you can try this also later on. So let's say create for Core SQL API. Remember, in one Cosmos DB account, I can host only one type of database as on today. Microsoft has a plan to provide interoperability between all these services. So you create your database with whichever API you want, but your client can be written using any client SDK supported by the platform. So a Core SQL API based database can be communicated with MongoDB SDK at the client side once this interoperability feature is enabled officially by Microsoft. That will be interesting, isn't it?
Saket, creating document DB is not in our subscription. It's not permitted by our subscription.
Okay, can you show your screen? Is it immediately giving the error?
Yes, Saket.
Just show me.
Is it visible now?
Okay, let me make it full screen. Okay, resource providers, Microsoft, document DB are not supported or not registered. and you cannot do that as well. Okay. Ideally, they should have enabled because the course outline talks about it. So no worries, I will find out an alternative for this.
Okay, sir.
Give me a moment. So there is a Sandbox account that we can create. Officially on Microsoft portal itself, and that we can use. So I'm just sharing a link with you guys in the chat box. Please open this, and one of you can share your screen so that I can guide you further. Yes, anyone sharing the screen? So sure, you just browse that link which I've put into the chat box. Click on sign in to activate Sandbox. Next. Next. Yes. Next.
Should I select student option?
Yeah, as of now, you can go ahead with that. Click next. As practically we are trainee only. Select beginner and say next. Azure, select that. .NET and Azure both you can select. Visual Studio you can select. Next. Okay. This is anyways a one-time activity. Now click on Activate Sandbox. This is for multi-factor authentication. You should receive some code which you have to enter here.
Done, Saket. What's next?
Review permissions. Accept. Purposefully, Microsoft has created these features for people who are looking to learn the Azure platform without having an active subscription. You can learn. So your sandbox can be used for next 4 hours, and 10 such sandbox in a day we can create, right? And next day again you can have another set of 10 sandboxes. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually go to the portal with the same account, and there we have the access to the sandbox. So if you can scroll down in that window itself, there must be a link, Azure portal for sandbox. See, in step 1 it is there. Scroll up, scroll up. Yeah, there it is. Click on it. Yeah, so just be on the screen. I'll also use the same sandbox feature. So I hope everyone has got this. Microsoft Learn Sandbox. Yes?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
Saket.
so you can unshare your screenshot. This is the screen we want. A separate ready-made subscription by Microsoft officially there for the users who are looking to learn Azure features, as we discussed. And here we can directly see that my account has now enabled with Learn Sandbox subscription, right? Limited by time for next 4 hours. Let's say create a resource here. This is now unrestricted. We can actually create any resource. In this, I'm looking for Cosmos DB. So either from here or from databases, let's select Azure Cosmos DB option. Now I hope if you click on create for core SQL, you should be able to do so. Yes or no?
Yes, okay.
Now there should be no error as such, right? As it's a different subscription altogether we are using. Just like your organization has provided a sandbox subscription to you, this is provided by Microsoft. Create a resource group by your own name, like I'll say RG hyphen Akit Karnik. Okay, it says you do not have permissions. No worries. Let's select the existing resource group then. One has been created for us already, and it must be unique for all of us. Done. Here we need to give the name for the Cosmos DB account, which again needs to be globally unique. I name this as OI Demo Cosmos. For you, it must be something unique, not this. Green tick mark says it's available. Location, now we can use anyone, but to have the uniformity, we will go for West US 2. Capacity mode now is available in two options, provision throughput and serverless. Provision throughput means I will ask for some specific storage space to be allotted. Whether I use the complete storage space or not, I would be required to pay the price for the storage space I have asked for. As far as the Cosmos DB account is live. Serverless means pay as you go. If I put 1 byte, I'll pay for 1 byte. If I put 100 bytes, I'll put for 100 bytes. If I put 100 GB, I'll pay for 100 GB. Do you get that? Yes?
Yes.
And then we have an option of applying free tier discount. So for first 1000 request units per second or 25 GB of storage, you will not be charged at all, even if you are in a paid subscription. If you cross 1000 request units per second limit or 25 GB of storage, then you will be getting charged. And this can be done only for one account in one subscription. Let's say apply. In fact, right now it doesn't matter because it's a trial subscription only, which we have borrowed from Microsoft, right? Say next. Then it is asking for how you want to distribute your data globally or locally. Geo redundancy. This will give you that same GRS feature of storage services, where multi-region setups will be there. Each region will have a deployment of your database. Multi-region writes means the write operation will be allowed to multiple regions. With geo redundancy, only read operations will be allowed from the main data center of that region. With this enabled, you will be able to do the write operations also to your nearest data center. But this depends on geo redundancy. And then availability zones. That means multi-zone reads and writes also will be enabled with availability zones. For now, I don't have huge amount of data. I keep it disabled. This can be enabled post deployment as well. So let's say next. This again is the firewall thing. You already know this. We discussed this with SQL. We discussed this with virtual machine. We discussed this with storage account as well, isn't it? Private means one specific endpoint accessible. Public means anyone from the selected networks. All network means anyone can access it, unrestricted. So for now, I'll go with this. So next, this is backup policy. How you want the backup? Every 1 hour or 2 hour or 4 hours? Or you want continuous backup, which will slow down the system? But depends. If high reliability is the factor, you may need to go with continuous. If I select continuous, it doesn't ask me anything else. But with periodic, I need to tell at what interval I need to take the backup. Default is 4 hours. Backup retention, how many hours that backup should be retained, after which it will be purged, as newer backups will already be available. And then what is the backup storage redundancy, local, zone or geo? Say for now I go for local. Say next. Data encryption, how it happens. System provided key to be used for signing the encrypted data, or you want your own key. If you have created a key vault and put a key into it, maybe then you can select customer managed key and provide the URL of your key from your key vault. For now, I'll go ahead with service managed key. Next, tags. Let's say this is environment, development. Next, validation is successful. Create. It will take 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, it says free tier is already applied by someone on this particular subscription. I said in one subscription, one account, you can have only one Cosmos DB with free tier. Maybe all of us are trying this. That's why for one of us it may succeed, for others it may fail. No worries. We'll again click on deployment, fail, click here, or maybe just redeploy. Give all the details required and try creating again. If it fails, then we have to start over again. Because here it didn't ask for the discount thing, whether it needs to be used or not. It's failing, no problem. We'll just say delete this deployment and let's start over quickly once again. So I go to hamburger menu, create resource, Azure Cosmos DB, core SQL, create, select the subscription and the resource group quickly, account name, I'll say OI demo Cosmos, whatever you tried earlier, location being West US 2, provision throughput is what I'll use. Remember here you should select do not apply as it's a shared subscription. If someone has already claimed the free tier discount, it won't be available to us. Next, everything else will have the same configuration like what we did earlier. All networks here, backup policy, just one change we made by saying locally redundant backup storage, service managed key here, tags, environment with value, development. Next, create. Should be completed in some time. Yes, it is done. Once it is done, we say go to resource. Directly it's going to quick start. So click overview. And here if you see, it's giving me options for creating a container. Container is like database. And within that, then you create different objects. Okay. So if you go to Data Explorer also, this is like SSMS for Cosmos DB, browser integrated. It looks empty as of now because there is no container created. So we will be doing all this programmatically. Okay. What we need, just like storage account, to programmatically connect to this service, we need some passwords. So let's go to settings. There we have something called as keys. Here we do have the primary connection string. Let's copy this and paste it in Windows Notepad. And then go to Visual Studio and take a new console application project. Console app.NET Framework. Next. We'll name this as AZ_demo Cosmos DB. Select the right location and create. Is it done? We need to add a package for Cosmos DB SDK, which essentially will be the document DB or Core SQL API SDK. So right click on references and say manage NuGet packages. Search for, first go to browse and then search for wait, let me confirm the name of the package because now there are multiple versions actually with some changes. Yeah, so it is Microsoft.Azure.Cosmos. There it comes. Select this and then click install. Okay, accept. And once done, let's close this. Import couple of namespaces here. One is with the same name as that of the package. So say Microsoft dot Azure dot Cosmos, followed by, as we will be working with Cosmos DB, which is a document database, stores everything in the form of JSON documents. We'll take the help of newtonsoft.json package for providing serialization, deserialization services to us. Is it clear? Yes?
Yes, Saket.
Is it okay? Here now I'm going to create some helper classes. Ideally, we should do it in separate files, but for simplicity, I'm going to create it over here itself. So to save time, I'm using some pre-created code. There is a class address with simple string properties, state and city. I'll put this in chat box also. Just copy and paste the same thing into your code. There is another class which I want, public class child, which has got some properties, family name, first name, gender, all string type, then grade, integer type. Let me put this in chat box as well. Copy and paste the same again. Then I have another class named as parent, which has got family name, first name, both of type string. Let me put this also in chat box. One more class I'm going to have here, that is class family, which uses all the three classes created earlier. Family has got ID, last name of type string. Then based on the parent class, I have got a parent array by the name parents, child array by the name children, address by the name address. Then I have a Boolean property is registered, and then overridden the toString method, which returns the serialized version of this object in the JSON format. And then in JSON, the camel case is used. That's where I say, look at this ID as this ID. Because otherwise, it will create two ID properties for me, which I don't want. Let me put this family class also in chat box. So is it done till here? Yes?
Yes, Saket.
Then in program class, I define private static read-only string, EPURI for endpoint URI, where I'm going to put my own endpoint URL, followed by another private static read-only string named as key, my account's key. that we have copied in Notepad. Let me put this in chat box. And once you have copied, for endpoint URI, you will use the Cosmos DB account name. In fact, it starts as this: https:// the account name that you have given to your Cosmos DB account. So practically this is the URI. You can get this copied from the keys tab itself. You can get it using the copy to clipboard button. Copy it and paste it here. Or else, instead of this, you can simply go for one private static read-only string, that is connection string. CS. Let's not use this. I'll put the connection string directly from my Windows Notepad here. So make the change. Then I create several objects which I'm going to use in my program. Cosmos client, which will be proxy for interacting with Cosmos DB service. To represent database, I have database. To represent table, I have container. And then this variable for database name, this variable for container name. Let me put this also in chat box. Tell me once you are done till here. Is it done? Is it done till here?
Yes, Saket.
Next, I put a helper method over here. Private async task create DB async. This method is going to create the database for me if it doesn't exist. If it does exist, it just connects. Look at the code. It's self-explanatory. Let me put that in chat box as well. I want to test this out in my main method. So here I say this dot Cosmos client okay, let me make this static. Static. All objects that we have defined on top, I'm making them static so that they can directly be accessible. And here then I just need to say db is equals to Cosmos client dot whatever it is, and this dot I remove from here as well. So make the necessary changes. Then I say get the db initialized here. In fact, container initialized here. Okay, I'm sorry. It should be Cosmos client equal to new Cosmos client that takes in the connection string. I make this main method itself as think, hence it returns task, not void. And there I say await okay, this method also is supposed to be static. It's not appearing. Here I say create dbasync. And console.read key. Once done, just say start. Database is created. Close it, go to the portal, and here if you go to overview, in fact now if you click on Data Explorer, it should display the data here. It should display, yeah, it took some time actually. So I have family DB database created here. No container created yet. So that is the next thing that we will be doing. So here I add another helper method, create container async. Make it static. Async task create container async, which initializes the container object with db.container if not exist async, container ID, and the partition key, last name. The data is stored in distributed manner. So on what field basis the data should be distributed is the partition key. I'm looking to partition the data on last name. People with same last name should be stored together on one storage device. Different last names may go to different storage devices. Let me put this in chat. So this is self-explanatory code again. I just need to make sure that I get it called. So here I say await create container is. Okay, let's start and see. It should display a couple of messages now. Database created, container created. Let's close. Let's go to the portal and here do a refresh. It should now display me the family container. All documents will go into this items collection, which will have ID and last name directly visible here. And once I select the record here, it should show me the complete document here. So records are called as document now here. That's the next thing we are going to see. So here we go and add another helper method, little complex one this time. Make it static. Add items to container. I create my first family object here. This is the regular stuff. Nothing special about it. Here I say await container dot read item async. I try to retrieve the object if it already exists by this ID in this partition. I capture return item response type of family with this name and inform the user that item already exists to prevent duplicate entry. If it is not found, it will be caught over here with this stuff. HTTP status code is an enum which comes from system.net namespace. So for that, just over on HTTP status code with this light bulb arrow, click and select using system.net, it will be resolved. So if it is not found exception, what we are doing is await container.create item async of type family. I pass F1, partition key I give here, get the response here, and then inform the user that, okay, this item is created and it consumed these many request units per second. And then here I say await. Add items to container async. Save and let me put this into your chat box. As the call you have to make yourself after copying it like this. Check it out. I put this into the chat box. So once all set, just say start and wait for the messages to appear. Database created, container created, item added, operation consume, some request units per second. It shows me it's done. I close this, go to the portal, do a refresh here. Unfortunately, it's not showing here, so just do a complete browser refresh here. And then expand again. Family DB, family container, items, it's there. If I select this, it should show me the complete document. Some metadata properties it automatically added for me. Likewise, all documents will be created. Okay, so for now, I'm just deleting this document from here itself so that our next demo can go through successfully. I deleted it and then get back to Visual Studio and see the next thing where I want to get it queried. So I add another helper method over here, query items async, which is also static. Here goes the query, looks typically like SQL query, and that's why the name of this API is SQL API. Select asterisk from C, which is alias for the container, where C dot last name equals to current. This exact container name will be taken from on which container you are firing this query. And I cannot specify the exact name by default. Message running this query. Then I actually build the query with query definition. And then here I say container.get item query iterator of type family. Based on this query definition, the result is captured here in feed iterator of family. And then I want from this feed iterator the family objects to be retrieved and added to this list. That's what this while loop is doing. As far as there are results, I go inside, I get read next async called on result set iterator here, which gives me the current result set. And then within that, I iterate for each object of type family and get it added to the list. Let me put this in chat box. Just check it out. To call this in main, I say await query items async. Once done, just say start. It will create database, create container, add items to the container, and then query. So according to our code as of now, it will just show me the JSON formatted data, which is here. I can use the JSON parser to map it to an object and then show it the way how I want. Again, I go back to portal and do a refresh. Do a complete browser refresh so that we can see that document and we can delete that. Here it is. Select, delete. Now I need to see how do I update the existing records here, right? So here goes another helper method for update operation. I create a private static async task replace family item async method, which says container.read item async, retrieve it first, capture it in item response. I read the actual resource, which is the document, and then I change the properties which I want to update. Earlier, the grade that we have added here is 5. I am trying to update it to 6. Registered was false. I'm setting it to true. And then I want to post it back with the updated data. So here we go and say container.replace item async. The new object ID partition key. And then capture response. Inform user that it's updated for this last name, this ID, and the new record. Let's get this called. Maybe before that, I just copy it into chat box. And here I say await replace family item async. Start it again. inserted. See here the grade is 5, is registered is false, but then after updation the grade becomes 6 and is registered is true. Again I go back to the portal, refresh, family DB, family container, items, select the item and delete. One operation which is pending now is how do I delete the items? And then how do I delete the container and the database? So both methods I'll put together here. This one is for deleting the record. I find the record and get it deleted. Directly the delete item async method is there, which takes in the key and the partition key, based on which it gets it deleted. And then here is data, delete database and cleanup. So container.delete container async will delete the container. Similarly, db.delete async will delete the database. Put this in chat box. And then here I just need to say await delete family item async by is and cleanup async. Start. It shows all the output we have seen till now. Also says family deleted, container deleted, database deleted. I go back to the portal here, refresh. I would see there is no container anymore. It should become empty. There is no database either. And once I'm done, maybe I can get this account itself deleted. Delete. Okay. Understood? So basic CRUD operations we have already learned. You can go through the documentation and learn the entire Cosmos DB product in detail. The link which I shared you for creating this sandbox actually is from the complete tutorial of Cosmos DB only. So a lot of scenarios are there, more complex examples are there. You can go through that tutorial and complete it. And one thing you might have noticed, I can create sandboxes at any time. There is no limit. Per day, 10 sandboxes are there, and each sandbox is available for 4 hours. Right? It's good enough. I don't need to have a active subscription always. Understood, everyone?
Yes, Agit.
Okay, so time for lunch break. It's already 1:15. So we'll start our next session at 2:30. 1 hour 15 minutes of break it is. Okay. So see you at 2:30 then.